All right. No,
Hey.
seriously now. We got to talk about jolly old Saint Nick, as MJF has termed him. Well, you over at Arcadian Vanguard, you have enlisted the merchant bank of Teterboro to help you engage in exploring strategic alternatives. And they say that it could take up to 6 months to sell Arcadian Vanguard to either Disney or NBC Universal, Comcast, whatever. But now Nick Khan, and this is what got the headlines, but something else has been glossed over we'll talk about in a second. Nick Khan said, 90 days we can wrap this thing up. 6 billion or so, 7 billion maybe, whatever the case. We'll have it wrapped up. He was on CNBC with your guy, Farber.
David Faber, I mean, my guy, we're both reasonable and Jewish. I mean, that's the only thing I can think of.
No, you're a fan. You're a fan of Farber's.
I'm
you're
a fan of his
fanatic.
and Morgan Brennan, the beautiful Morgan Brennan, of course. Don't forget her.
Well, yes, but you have a soft spot in your heart for Farber because he gives good advice. And
Faber,
basically, yeah. Well, basically, Nick Khan's on there. And as I mentioned, he gave the 3 months, we should have this taken care of line that everybody was talking about. But as he's mentioning the potential sales, old Farber comes in when he says, and Comcast, whatever. Well, Farber says, unfortunately, I hear that's not going to happen. This is CNBC. This is Farber.
Faber, call him his name.
Is there?
Why do you have to give him a gimmick name? You're never going to talk about him ever again on the show.
I know, I like him now because he exposed Nick Khan's business in front of God and everybody. He said, I hear that's not going to happen now. And he is their top business analyst. He talks to all these people, right? You know better than I do. You're the one who was peeping me to who Farber was.
If you watch these shows in the morning on CNBC, and he's on for a few hours, he's on, I think, the 9 o'clock hour and the 10 o'clock hour, which are two different shows, you hear the host talk about the CEOs that they've talked with, they went out to lunch with, they had dinner with, they had phone calls with, let alone the CEO of Comcast who owns CNBC. Who do you think he's getting the info from? It's someone at the top of Comcast. That's why he had a smile on his face when he's like, "What? Well, that's not what I hear."
Well, and speaking of a smile on somebody's face, as soon as he said that, they had the 3-shot of all of them. And as soon as he said that, Nick Khan's face froze in the kind of semi-grin that he had when the words were uttered. And he didn't move and he didn't change the expression as the conversation was continuing, but you could tell behind his eyes he was like, oh, my God. Yes. What did he just say? We can't let that get out.
We have a very robust plan to pretend that Comcast is still in the running to purchase this incredible, robust library of content that's just robust and very, very valuable right now.
It's busty. No, he waited a second and he answered briefly the question of the follow-up that they had talked about, but then went right back to, but no.
I'm very bullish. I'm very bullish.
Yeah, I'm very bullish on that. We're not as pessimistic as you think. We believe there's still, some life in that proposition. And what else can he say? But my God, here's the parent company's network business analyst telling him on the air that he's heard that Comcast is not going to be the one to buy the company.
Hey, Jim, can I have $100? No. Well, I'm very bullish on you giving me that $100. What does that mean? The guy just said, I hear they're not doing it. Well, I'm very bullish on they will do it.
Well, that's because it's a lot of bull, I guess. But so...
Is this the first time you've seen Nick Khan? I mean, we've heard him interviewed. Is this the first time you've seen him interviewed?
I've seen pictures, obviously, but I've seen a few clips. But it seems like he's on the Bruce Pritchard neck machine at the gym. He's getting that open collar, wide neck look going on.
It's a very robust neck.
He's like a blowfish. He's starting to grow there. Is that something that happens when they get to the top of the WWE these days? But I'm
very bullish. But anyway, breaking through my collar.
So we've established then, apparently, that it's not all sunshine, lollipops, rainbows, and waterfalls with Comcast. Who's still in the running for this besides the evil empire of Saudi Arabia, which may make the evil empire of Vince McMahon look like sunshine, lollipops, rainbows, and waterfalls.
Well, the other thing, in the clips you saw, because unfortunately the version that CNBC put online was clipped from the original version, which went on a little bit longer, where they were talking about potential suitors. And again, at the end, David Faber kind of, shot up to bring up the idea that you said earlier that a deal could happen without Vince McMahon. And then it became, well, if the right thing came and the value for the shareholders, that's going to be the first thing. Because what it sounds like is, what company that buys WWE is going to be willing to pay a multi-million-dollar premium to get Vince out of the way on top of the purchase? Isn't that what it sounds like? Isn't that what it sounds like?
You got a nice company here. It'd be a shame if something happened to it. For another $50 million insurance policy, we can keep the old man away. I think it sounds like that they're basically saying, no, it wouldn't come down to, they just want out there that Vince doesn't have to still be in charge of the company if that was the only hang up. I don't know if they've put a price tag on the amount of the extortion it would take to get him, but also he did mention, Nick Khan did, and if he mentioned this, then he knows everybody's thinking it, and he knows Vince knows everybody's thinking it. He said, well, Vince is 77 years or 78, whatever. And I think, he realizes that there may be other opportunities, whatever the case. So I think now, if Vince was even 15 years younger, I think you'd have to blow him out of the chair with dynamite, even if goddamn Putin bought the thing. But at this point, I think he might realize that and he may, Vince, too many pronouns, pal. Vince may also be able to justify at this point, well, the only reason they wouldn't want me is just they're planning for the future with this kind of investment, and I'm just too goddamn old. Because this is the guy who said, in one of those Playboy interviews or whatever, I will die a very frustrated man because there will be so many things left to do. So he probably can justify it's not that they want him out of the way. It's that, well, God damn it, he hadn't been able to come up with that fucking youth potion yet.
Based on everything we've seen over the last year, all indications point to him looking for a buyer that'll keep him on board. There's nothing that says he wants to go home, that he's ready to retire. And really, when you look at creative CEOs, who goes home willingly, especially if they have complete control of the company, who goes home willingly?
I didn't say he was anxious to, but if that was the only, it seems like I think he's convinced he has to sell this thing quickly before the rights fee thing lays a fucking gobbledygooker. And then it looks like that he presided over a company that lost half of its value overnight or whatever. So, because why else is he in such a rush? If he just wanted to come back and take over, then he could do that because he's already done it and could do more if he wanted to.
He could do it if he buys back, if he gets someone to buy the company and insert him in charge.
Well, no.
He can't do it while it's a public company. It would cause too much problem. He could do it this way.
He can just come back and do whatever the fuck he wants to. He just did.
Well, he can, but it would cause a bigger problem. I think there actually would be a stock hit if all of a sudden it was announced Vince McMahon's taking back over creative. I don't think that would be seen as a positive right now. The stock bump
was from the sale. Yes.
Was from the idea of a sale and Vince coming to help facilitate the sale. More than the rights fee, the sale. But if you saw the concerns on CNBC. If it's Vince coming back to run creative, that's where you get concerns. That when it's him dealing with talent. Let's not forget he just settled a rape lawsuit. Just settled it months ago, within the last 2 months. So I don't think he's going away willingly. I think you're going to have to pay a premium to get him to leave.
They could bring Stephanie back to run the women's division so he wouldn't have to have any contact with them. Or maybe, what's Linda doing these days? She's not a senator.
Do you think Vince is trying to figure out who leaked everything to the Wall Street Journal, or do you think he knows already?
Boy, it would have to be such a small circle of people, wouldn't you think, that he at
Yeah.
least strongly suspectifies who did it?
Hello, Wall Street Journal. This is Mr. X. I just want to say I heard a robust rumor about Vince McMahon. This is not Nick Khan, by the way.
But no, but I'm just, Vince is still, why would they then come out and say, 3 months or whatever Vince wants to sell this thing now while it's worth whatever the fuck they can claim it's worth. And, but then if Comcast is out and it blah, 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 could it get down to Madman Vince? I want to give him away, but Linda won't let me. Prices slashed to the bone. We're going out of business, folks. We've got VHSs here from Georgia Championship Wrestling right now at Shop at Home. I mean,
even like some of the things you heard brought up on the CNBC clip, they brought up Endeavor, who owns UFC, and they've got lots of money. They're going to take on another $6 billion in debt to purchase the WWE? I don't think so.
Well, and then, it's the prevailing belief, and it may have been true 20 years ago, that UFC and wrestling have a crossover audience and you can kind of, run the same kind of promotion for both. But now, with the way that the wrestling business has deteriorated and or, osmosis into something else, UFC is more now pro wrestling. They promote more like pro wrestling than pro wrestling does, but that doesn't mean that it's still expertise in both genres. So, and then, like you said, for another $6 billion, and then they've got to either renegotiate the TV deals, keep the TV deals, make new TV deals, whatever the case. And now, here's something we haven't been thinking about. We've talked about the network a lot, but what's going to happen to all the stuff in the vault up there in their mountain, in their cave? All the AWA, all the Florida, all the, the old WWF archives, all the stuff they've bought and accumulated and we're supposed to be preserving forever and digitalizing and all that stuff when, whoever owns this thing decides, well, who gives a shit about old Mid-Atlantic wrestling? And there you go.
Yeah, you and I just talked about the whole idea that we buy books, books that we want to read, obviously, but also books because if we want to read them in the future, we know that there's a chance it'll go out of print and disappear. With wrestling, we've seen that on a number of occasions. That's the point. If you don't have a Mid-South wrestling collection, and all of a sudden the new owner of WWE says it's too much money to put these Mid-South shows up on whatever streaming service they're on at that point, that stuff's gone to history unless you have it.